Hello and welcome. I am Pranay Upadhyay and you are watching Namaste World, your daily window into the biggest stories shaping India and the world. We begin in West Asia. Armenia is pivoting from Russia to India for weapons as Ukraine war delays and regional rivalries reshaping the alliances. Back in East Asia, China's exports are booming, but weak domestic demand and a property slump threatens Xi Jinping's leverage in upcoming US talks. In South Asia, India is set to export BrahMos missiles to Vietnam and Indonesia as China tensions drive regional defense rearrangements. Pakistan has struck a $4 billion arms deal with Libya, defying UN embargoes and reshaping regional security equations. Libya faces fresh instability after the army chief died in a plane crash days after a controversial Pakistan defense deal. But the biggest news of the day: Bangladesh is on edge after Osman Hadi's brother accused Yunus-led interim government of orchestrating his brother's killing. All that and more. Global flashpoints, power plays and stories that matter are coming up in this edition of Namaste World. Tensions are rising in Bangladesh after the brother of assassinated student leader Sharif Osman Hadi accused the Muhammad Yunus-led interim government of orchestrating his killing to derail upcoming national elections. Sharif Osman Hadi, a key figure in 2024 uprising that ousted Sheikh Hasina and convener of Inqilab Moncho, was shot in Dhaka on December 12 while campaigning. The 32-year-old died days after in a Singapore hospital. Speaking at a Martyrs' Oath program in Dhaka Shahbag region, his brother Sharif Omar Hadi directly addressed the government, and I quote, "It is you who had Osman Hadi killed, and now you are trying to foil the elections by using this as an issue," unquote. He alleged a faction within the administration targeted his brother. He warned them of a Hasina-like fate if justice is delayed. He said, I quote, "If justice of Osman Hadi is not served, you too will be compelled to flee Bangladesh one day." Hadi's death on December 18 sparked widespread outrage, with protests turning violent, buildings vandalized and media offices torched. In related unrest, a Hindu factory worker, Deepu Chandra Das, was lynched by a mob in Maimansinghpura over alleged blasphemy claims, his body tied to a tree and set on fire. The interim government has condemned the violence, promising swift investigations ahead of the February polls. African nation Libya has been plunged into a fresh uncertainty after its army chief, Lieutenant General Muhammad al-Haddad, was killed in a plane crash while returning from an official visit to Turkey, just days after Pakistan and Libya reportedly finalized a controversial $4 billion defense deal. The aircraft lost contact shortly after taking off from Ankara, killing al-Haddad and 4 others. The timing has drawn sharp attention, coming soon after Pakistan Army Chief General Asim Munir held meetings with Eastern Libyan Army Commander Khalifa Haftar, whose forces rival the UN-recognized government al-Haddad served. The deal, reportedly signed despite a UN arms embargo, has raised serious international concerns. Munir's disputed claims about Pakistan's military performance against India have added further controversy. With Libya divided between competing power centers, al-Haddad's death deepens uncertainty over the country's fragile security balance and geopolitical implications of a new military alignment. Armenia is quietly rewriting its defense playbook, turning to India for rockets, howitzers, radars, and anti-drone systems in deals now topping about $2 billion. As Russia's reliability falters amid the Ukraine war and regional rivalries sharpening, is Yerevan signaling a decisive strategic break from Moscow and a new geopolitical alignment? Here is a report by Farhan Khan.
3, 2, 1, now.
Armenia is quietly rewriting its defense playbook, and India is right at the center of it. Over the past 4 years, New Delhi has emerged as Armenia's largest weapons supplier, overtaking Russia, which once accounted for almost all of Yerevan's arms imports. This shift is not accidental, it is strategic and geopolitical. The most dramatic development came in late 2025. Reports suggested Armenia is close to finalizing a massive deal with India for HAL's Su-30 MKI fighter jets. Valued between 2.5 and 3 billion US dollars, the deal could see up to 12 aircraft delivered from 2027, marking Armenia's biggest air force modernization since Soviet times. Unlike Armenia's Russian-made Su-30 SMs, which struggle due to lack of spares and munitions, the Indian-configured Su-30 MKI would come with advanced Indian systems. Uttam AESA radar, Astra beyond visual range missiles, and modern electronic warfare suits. In simple terms, Armenia would gain better radar reach, longer combat endurance, and stronger deterrence in the skies. But fighter jets are just one part of the story. India has already delivered Akash-1S air defense systems to Armenia under a $720 million deal signed in 2022. Armenia became the first foreign operator of the Akash system, designed to intercept aircraft, missiles, and drones. Pinaka multi-launch rocket systems, ATAGS howitzers, counter-battery radars, and anti-drone equipment have followed, taking total defense contracts to well over $2 billion. Why is Armenia turning away from Russia? Part of the answer lies in Moscow's war in Ukraine. Arms deliveries slowed, contracts were delayed, and confidence eroded. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has openly criticized unnamed allies for failing to supply weapons despite signed agreements, a clear reference to Russia. Armenia has also taken an increasingly independent stance on Ukraine, further straining ties with the Kremlin. India, meanwhile, offers reliability, diversification, and political alignment. There is also a sharper geopolitical edge. During the 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh war between Armenia and Azerbaijan, Turkey and Pakistan openly backed Azerbaijan. Pakistan even recognized Azerbaijan's position on Karabakh, while Turkey provided drones, training, and diplomatic cover to Azerbaijan. In India, many saw echoes of Kashmir diplomacy, with Turkey backing Pakistan and Pakistan backing Azerbaijan. Armenia, isolated and militarily pressured, became a natural partner for India. By arming Armenia, New Delhi gains strategic presence in the South Caucasus, counters a Turkey-Pakistan-Azerbaijan axis, and strengthens links to Iran, France, and Greece. It also opens future trade and transit routes towards Europe, a long-term geopolitical prize. For Armenia, India is not just a weapons supplier. It is a hedge against dependence, a signal of strategic autonomy, and a pathway into a more multipolar security order. This is not just about missiles and fighter jets. It is about influence, alliances, and the quiet reshaping of power in a region where geopolitics rarely stays quiet for long. With Farhan Khan, Bureau Report, India Today Global.
China's economy is sending mixed signals as exports surge, but domestic demands weakens, just as President Xi Jinping prepares for high-stakes talks with US President Donald Trump. With property slump, fragile consumer confidence, and slowing growth at home, how much leverage does Beijing really carry into the next round of US-China negotiations? Here is a report by Sharif Saha.
China's economy may look strong from the outside, but at home, warning lights are flashing. As President Xi Jinping prepares for high-stakes talks with US President Donald Trump next year, China is facing a slowing domestic economy that could shape every move at the negotiating table. Exports are booming. In fact, China's trade surplus has crossed $1 trillion, a record. Factories are shipping more goods than ever, keeping headline growth near official target. But beneath the surface, the picture is far less reassuring. Consumer spending is weak. Retail sales grew just over 1% in November, the slowest pace in nearly 2 years. Industrial output is losing steam. investment is falling, and confidence remains fragile. At the heart of the problem is China's property crisis. With millions of households tied to real estate, the housing slump has dented wealth, spending, and trust in the economy. Even President Xi has publicly criticized reckless investments, calling for more sustainable growth. Beijing wants to shift from an export-driven model to one powered by domestic consumption, but that transition is proving painfully slow. Aggressive stimulus risks piling up debt. Structural reforms are politically difficult, and without stronger consumer demand, China remains heavily dependent on global markets, just as trade tensions with the US loom large. That creates a dilemma for Xi. Externally, China holds leverage from supply chains to rare earths. Internally, economic weakness limits flexibility. As Washington and Beijing move toward renewed talks on trade, technology, and tariffs, China's domestic slowdown could quietly shape the outcome. For Xi, the challenge is clear: revive confidence at home while projecting strength abroad. How he balances both may not just define the talks with Trump, but China's economic future itself. With Sharik Shah, Bureau Report, India Today Global.
India is poised to clinch a landmark defense export deal worth $450 million, supplying supersonic BrahMos cruise missiles to Vietnam and Indonesia. As China's assertive growth in the South China Sea region and ASEAN nations seek deterrence, is New Delhi's emerging as a decisive military supplier, reshaping Indo-Pacific power balances. Here is a report by Srijita Sen Majumdar.
India is on the verge of securing major defense export deals worth $450 million with Vietnam and Indonesia for its supersonic BrahMos cruise missiles, marking a significant milestone in India's growing defense export capabilities. The BrahMos is a game changer. The supersonic cruise missile flies at nearly 3 times the speed of sound, reaching Mach 2.8. Jointly developed with Russia, it's become one of India's most formidable defense assets. Russia has now given India the green light to export BrahMos missiles to both countries. During a December 4th meeting between Indian Defense Minister Rajnath Singh and Russian Defense Minister Andrei Belousov, Moscow confirmed it has no objections. A formal clearance certificate is now awaited. Defense sources indicate both countries may place additional orders after the initial contracts worth over 4,000 crore rupees are signed. Once finalized, Vietnam and Indonesia will join the Philippines as ASEAN nations equipped with BrahMos missiles. India signed a $375 million contract with the Philippines in January 2022, and Manila is expected to order more. What's driving these purchases? All 3 countries face China's aggressive expansion in the South China Sea. Confrontations, especially between China and the Philippines, have escalated dramatically, making advanced defense capabilities critical for regional security. India proved the BrahMos system's effectiveness in May during Operation Sindoor, successfully deploying the missiles from Sukhoi 30 MKI fighter jets for strikes deep into Pakistan. The missile's range has been extended to 450 kilometers from the original 290, significantly enhancing its strategic reach. Indian armed forces have invested around 60,000 crore rupees in BrahMos missiles, making them the primary conventional precision strike weapons across all 3 services. India is also developing an 800-kilometer range version, expected from 2028 onwards. Beyond BrahMos, India is offering other indigenous systems, including the Akash air defense system, which can intercept aircraft, drones, and cruise missiles at 25 kilometers, and the Pinaka multi-launch rocket system. Interest is coming from the Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, the UAE, and Brazil. While India remains among the world's top 3 arms importers, its defense exports are surging. In 2024-25, India exported defense equipment worth nearly 24,000 crore rupees to around 80 countries. Armenia has become one of India's biggest clients, purchasing Akash systems, Pinaka rockets and 155mm artillery guns. These BrahMos deals represent more than commercial success. They signal India's transformation from defense importer to emerging exporter, while strengthening strategic partnerships with countries concerned about Chinese expansion in the Indo-Pacific. With Shijita Sen Mujumdar, Bureau Report, India Today Global.
Pakistan has clinched a staggering $4 billion arms deal with Libya, supplying fighter jets and military hardware, despite a long-standing UN arms embargo, as Islamabad pushes China-made weapons under its own banner and expands influence in conflict zones. Does this deal expose the limits of global arms control and raise new regional security risks? Here is a report.
Pakistan has sealed one of the biggest arms exports deals in its history to sell military equipment worth $4 billion to Libya. This comes despite an arms embargo by the UN on the war-ravaged North African nation. The deal is a big shot in the arm for the newly minted Chief of Defence Forces Asim Munir. Sale of weapons to Libya will not only build Pakistan's image as a weapons exporter, but it will also boost Munir's leadership credentials domestically. Islamabad has been aggressively promoting its military hardware, which essentially is all Chinese equipment rebranded in Pakistani colors. Reuters reported that the lucrative deal included supply of fighter jets, trainer aircraft, and other military hardware. The multi-billion-dollar agreement was finalized after a meeting between Pakistan's Field Marshal Asim Munir and the Deputy Commander of the Libyan National Army Saddam Haftar in Benghazi. The development isn't entirely surprising since Pakistan is known for supplying weapons to rogue nations like North Korea in the past. Libya has been under a UN arms embargo since 2011, after the NATO-backed uprising toppled Muammar Gaddafi and fractured the country into rival power centers. Under UN rules, any weapons transfers to Libya now requires approval. It's anyone's guess whether Pakistan or Libyan authorities would have sought an exemption from the embargo. Pakistan will supply 16 JF-17 fighter jets and 12 Super Mushak trainer aircraft to Khalifa Haftar's forces over the next 2.5 years as part of the deal. The JF-17 is jointly developed by Pakistan and China and is marketed as a cheaper, multi-role alternative to Western fighter jets. This new phase of Pakistan-Libya strategic military cooperation is set to bring major upheaval in the North African nation. Khalifa Haftar's forces control the major oil fields and doesn't recognize the UN-backed Government of National Unity, which controls much of Western Libya. China has not only transferred advanced fighter jets to its all-weather ally, but also cutting-edge submarines and combat naval vessels. While promoting his weapons pitch to the Libyan National Army, Munir falsely claimed that Pakistan's armed forces had used 90% indigenous technology in recent hostilities with India. Munir further claimed that Pakistan had downed India's Rafales, Su-30s, MiG-29s, Mirage 2000 and S-400 systems. Worryingly for India, Asim Munir is now successful in selling Pakistani weapons via his blatantly false narrative.
In our just recent war with India, and we have shown our technology to the world. Alhamdulillah, our Air Force using that technology, and that is 90% of the indigenous technology of Pakistan. And Alhamdulillah, with his blessings, his nusra and his mercies, the air domain, Rafale, Su-30, MiG-29, Mirage 2000, Alhamdulillah, S-400, all taken out. And then, as I said last night also to my brother Saddam, that every piece of equipment and technology which is there with Pakistan is available for our brothers. Yeah, in terms of any assistance that you need from Pakistan, that will be available at your doorsteps, inshallah. And this relationship is not new. It was existing since 60s.
Islamabad is using the idea of Ummah to expand its defense exports across Muslim-majority regions. The cunning strategy blends military sales with identity politics, positioning Pakistan not just as a supplier but as a defender of Islamic nations. For now, the Libya deal opens a new foothold in North Africa for Pakistan. For Libya, it signals deeper ties with non-Western defense suppliers. And for the international community, it raises questions about the effectiveness of the UN arms embargo in a country struggling to emerge from years of conflict.
As we wrap up today's show, here is a quick look at the top stories making waves around the world. The US Supreme Court has blocked Donald Trump from deploying National Guard troops to Chicago, dealing a rare legal setback to his expanding use of military forces in Democratic-led cities. Thailand's caretaker leader Anutin has entered the February election race, betting on rising nationalism and Cambodia border dispute to return his Bhumijathai party to power. A suspected gas explosion tore through a nursing home near Philadelphia, killing 2 people and injuring 20 as firefighters raced to rescue trapped residents. And that brings us to the end of today's edition of Namaste World. From breakthroughs in technology and business to political developments and natural disasters. Stay tuned as we bring you the latest updates, key developments and more from New Delhi to New York. See you again tomorrow, same time, right here on Namaste World.